well, there's still people missing. Pretty sure everyone went out last night. Well, it's still early, and we have time. So, when I was invited to give this keynote, which, by the way, I'm missing a Y there. So when I was invited to give this keynote, I had a flashback to the days when I was pursuing my master's degree, and master's degree in cybersecurity. And every time I would ask for references, like, what can I read? Where can I go to look for insights? Pretty much everyone would always recommend me this global threat report from CrowdStrike. So I have to say it's a real honor to be able to share this with you today. And I was having this conversation with a colleague of mine last night about what makes this threat report so relevant for the industry. And I have to say, I haven't been that long with CrowdStrike, but I have realized that we have these sort of unique collection capabilities. So you have to think that we're able to collect probably trillions of events a day from millions of endpoints around the world. And we're able to correlate all of those events with our intel coming from incident response engagements, our malware analysis capabilities. We have Overwatch, which is doing threat hunting for our customers. So when we're able to combine all of that with, probably or arguably one of the best human intelligence teams on the planet, then we're able to produce this kind of content that I hope you'll find interesting. Okay. Now, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not a sales guy. I'm an engineer. And I'm going to share with you today insights and actual information, which I hope will help you to later address these threats in a proper manner. Now, in CrowdStrike, we put a lot of effort, a lot of emphasis on attribution. And some of the things we like about threat actors and attribution is we want to understand who they are, what's their motivation, what drives them, right? What's their goal, how they operate, and what we need to do to stop them, okay? Now, if you're not familiar with how we categorize threat actors, we typically have these three categories. We are studying them based on their motivation. So when we see nation-state threat actors, this is the type of threat actor that will engage in espionage, sabotage, disruptive campaigns, or disruptive campaigns, okay? Although it's true that there's one exception here, because when you see North Korean threat actors, you'll see that they also engage in financially motivated operations. And that's because that's one of the main ways for North Korea to get revenue to finance their regime, okay? Now, we do also have e-crime threat actors. They have kind of shifted over the last years to extortion, data exfiltration. You even see this type of double extortion or triple extortion attacks. So it's not any longer about just the ransom itself, but also getting something out of the data they're able to exfiltrate to. And finally, we have hacktivists. So hacktivists encompasses a broader category of threat actors. Here you'll find nationalism, activism, and in some cases, terrorism as well. And the type of attacks you'll find here are DDoS attacks, web defacements, or even hack and leak attacks, where they exfiltrate data and they just publish it on purpose to just discredit their target. Okay. So let's let me show you how we kind of group these threat actors. We are always trying to, in every year we publish this global threat report. We are, let's say, graduating malicious clusters of activity into threat actors, if we're able to do so. We're tracking more than 250 threat actors, and for this New Year's Global Threat Report, we have more than 20 new threat actors, okay? So let's go into the numbers. Let's break down the threat landscape by the numbers. And I want to start with here with the initial access. So threat actors over the past year have been putting a lot of effort in initial access. And one of the things our customers, and what I like the most about this report is the metrics, okay? It's not just something we're saying, it's something we are able to measure. So there's been a heavy increase in phishing attacks. We will go into a bit more detail in this type of attack, but that's a lot. That's 400 year-over-year increase, more than 400. We have seen an increase in more than 50% in initial access broker activity. And something that I found quite shocking, because I didn't realize until I saw this, is that if you see all the vulnerabilities disclosed in 2024, more than 50% of those are related to initial access, okay? So with this, you can start to understand as to where the adversaries are going, okay? Now, in CrowdStrike, we also have a concept that we have named breakout time. So breakout time is essentially the time it takes an adversary from the time he's able to get that initial access until he's able to move laterally. So just for your information, breakout time, average breakout time in 2023 was 62 minutes. Now, for 2024, it has gone down to 48 minutes. And we were able to clock the fastest breakout time in just 51 seconds. So I don't know you guys, but if you ask me, that's insane. I mean, how many of your teams, how many of your organizations can detect and respond in less than 60 seconds? This is crazy fast. This is like Usain Bolt fast, okay? We have been studying the way adversaries are operating once they get that initial access. And what we have found is that there's been almost 80% of hands-on keyboard attacks. So what that means is that they're not deploying any malware any longer for that initial attack, okay? Because they know that probably, and it's probably your case, that you have at least some sort of protection in your endpoints, even if it's a legacy IB. Or you may have decent EDRs or great EDRs, and that's fine. Adversaries, they know this. So instead of trying to build this super crazy high-tech zero-day malware, they're going for the easy stuff. They're going for credentials, something that can allow them to get that initial access, and from there, just do a hands-on keyboard and try to fly under the radar, okay? So let's start with one of the main categories we are studying in the Global Threat Report, which is social engineering. Now, social engineering, it's not new. We all know that. But like I said, there's been a heavy increase in phishing attacks. And adversaries are still targeting humans. They are innovating quite a lot in that space. And we have seen, especially North Korean type of adversaries and e-crime adversaries, trying to leverage this type of technique. So, and we'll see an example in a minute, but they'll typically target a very specific victim. They will try to pose as, hey, we are the help desk, and we want to help you do this and that. Or they'll pose as an employee and then ask for password resets, MFA resets, and things like that, just to get that first initial access, okay? Now, in these regards, there's been also a heavy increase in what I said before, that initial access broker activity. So there's more and more threat actors specializing just in initial access. And then they're selling that access to e-crime groups or even nation-state groups. So this is one of the examples I wanted to share with you today. This is a real attack, okay, that we were able to disrupt. In this case, and for those of you who don't know, in CrowdStrike, we name our adversaries. So every time you see a last name, which is Spider, that's an e-crime adversary, okay? So in this case, Curly Spider, what these guys did is they employ this spam bombing technique. So they first identify the target, and after that, they'll just start flooding their email, their inbox, okay, for hours, days, weeks if they have to. And once they're able to identify that the victim is overwhelmed, they'll typically send a follow-up email saying, hey, we are the help desk, please click here if you need help, or they'll just call, a phone call. Hey, we are the help desk, we have seen you have this problem, it's because you have malware or you have your spam, anti-spam settings outdated, so let us help you, right? So in this particular case, they were able to lure the victim into connecting to a video conference with them. They made him download a remote management and monitoring tool, quick access, could be TeamViewer, any tool. And from there, they were able to get remote control, and they downloaded some of their tradecraft into the endpoint of the victim, deleted forensic artifacts, modified some registry keys, and created a hidden user account, okay, just to establish persistence. And this was all under 4 minutes, okay? So this is super fast. And in this case, this was a customer of ours, Falcon Overwatch, which is our threat hunting team, was able to detect this and notify our customer in time, and they were able to stop this attack. But there's no CROWDSTRIKE here. There's no zero-day malware being deployed. This is basic stuff. So, and when you think about it, which organization is not using a remote management and monitoring tool? AnyDesk, TeamViewer, I mean, even Zoom has a remote control feature. So this is something that is very difficult to detect, but it's something you should be keeping an eye on, okay? Now, we also have to talk about GenAI, because why not? Everyone is talking about GenAI. There's a lot of hype around GenAI, but we need to understand, what's hype and what's real stuff. So I have to say that we have not seen GenAI doing super malicious, crazy things. Again, we have not seen GPT writing a zero-day malware. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying we have not seen that. Okay, so yes, GenAI is cool. You can use GenAI for many things, and you can see here. But there's also a lot of hype around. So what we have seen is GenAI is being used by the adversaries for many different purposes. Mostly, it's being used for phishing campaigns. So, writing phishing emails. As a matter of fact, here's a research where researchers found that, AI generating emails had a greater click rate than those written by humans. And, OK, it makes sense, right? Because I remember when you would get these Nigerian prince emails that were so bad, right? Like, who's writing that? Now, one of the capabilities that GenAI has is that it's able to produce the content in a way that mimics the content which it was trained with, right? So it's not that a Russian operator is writing in Russian and then using a free translator to get a Spanish phishing email. And that's bad. That's going to look bad. You'll probably notice that. Now, if you're using GenAI, then the output, it's much, much better. Now, we have been closely tracking one of the most prolific adversaries when it comes to social engineering and GenAI, which is famous Cholima. And again, Cholima, every adversary whose last name is Cholima, it's related to North Korea. And I don't know if you knew this, but this type of adversary has been engaging in a lot of fake employees campaigns. So what they have been doing over the past year is they have been putting their analysts into software and tech companies, especially Western companies that are offering remote positions. And they have been using GenAI to help them with the interview processes, creating strong and solid social media profiles, even helping them through the interview. So if they are being asked a question, then they are using Gen AI to answer the question. They have been also using deep fake technology. So I have seen these videos, you probably saw them too, where a recruiter is on an interview with a person, and then suddenly he asks the person, hey, can you put your hand on your head, right? Because the image looks weird. And they have been using deepfake as well during this type of processes. And they have been very, very successful. As a matter of fact, there was one news that in the US, so the government was able to prosecute a person who was running a laptop farm, because when those guys get hired, they ship their equipment to a laptop farm, where they install these remote management and monitoring tools, and then they can work from home, from North Korea. And the person was prosecuted. They were able to find that they had almost gotten like $17 million out of the company. I mean, they're not stealing it. They're working. They're doing the job. But it's one way that North Korea uses to get that revenue for the regime. Okay, using this, the guys are working. They're doing their job. In some occasions, they will even go to install some backdoors or get some intellectual property. But it's mostly financially motivated. Okay. Now, one of the things I also wanted to share with you today about Gen AI is that it has been used for disinformation campaigns. And I don't know if you knew this, but 2024 was probably the biggest election year in history of human. So almost 2 billion of world's population had a chance to vote last year. And we're talking about probably 7 out of the 10 most populated countries in the world. Some of these countries are even engaged in geopolitical conflicts or armed conflicts too. So Gen AI has been helping threat actors to create this and support their disinformation campaigns because, like I said before, Gen AI is able to create this content which looks legit, right? So they have been using Gen AI to engage in social media, like commenting, posting, article writing, and things like that, okay? And it's very difficult to distinguish between an article who has been written by Gen AI and one that has not been written by Gen AI, especially for like regular type of population, okay? And they're using it to create fake websites. They will use the same style as the BBC website and start creating content, engaging in social media. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if where you're coming from, you are facing some elections this year as well. This is only going to get worse, unfortunately, okay? Now, every year when we are studying our adversaries and we are studying what's their motivation, where they're coming from, there's always a country that stands out. And this past year, I have to say that probably the winner, it's the Chinese threat actors. And it's not a coincidence, We have seen more than 100% of activity related to Chinese cyber threat actors. And it's not a coincidence because the Chinese Communist Party has been spending a lot of time, a lot of effort, and money in developing their cyber capabilities, okay? They have a very specific program where they have been investing in, legal frameworks so they can oversight the information networks. They have been investing in universities so that they can have this readily and available cyber workforce. They have been investing in research, okay? They have been engaging in CTF. They have been investing a lot in research so they can develop their own exploit program. They have been engaging with the private sector as well. So they have been doing contracts with very skilled people and to get very specific infrastructure so they can support, the operations for the People Liberations Army, Ministry of State Security, and so on and so forth. Okay. And again, it's not a coincidence. It's been a plan. I think that it was in 2014 where Xi Jinping, when addressing the Chinese Communist Party, said that China had to be a cyber power. Well, I have to say that probably today it's among the top 3 nations with the most advanced cyber capabilities. Okay, and it's pretty much about espionage in the case of Chinese threat actors, and also intellectual property. And Chinese threat actors, they have specialized in very different industries and regions. And even when you see that 2 adversaries are going to the same region, they are targeting different things. And they are also working together. So you could have one Chinese threat actor answering, requirements from another Chinese threat actor. There's threat actors who have specialized in, for example, telecommunications network. And they're able to infiltrate in those networks and then, again, fly under the radar because no one's monitoring for security purposes those type of protocols or those type of networks. So moving on, I also wanted to share with you today what we call the cloud-conscious adversary. Now, cloud-conscious adversary, it's a concept we coined in last year's Global Threat Report. And by cloud-conscious, we mean an adversary who has fully understood that he has landed in a cloud, okay, in cloud infrastructure, and that he's able to not only move through the cloud environment, but also use and abuse cloud features, okay? And cloud infrastructure is very unique in the way you operate the control plane, so the management plane of the cloud. And this is the type of adversary that are fully aware and can, like I said, abuse this type of features. So we have seen more than 25% increase in cloud intrusions. And from those intrusions, 35% of those have been done using valid credentials. Okay. Now, once they're able to get those credentials and get inside the control plane, they might be able to do some lateral movement, establish persistence, or even go downstream. So if you have a hybrid environment and you have on-prem infrastructure too, they'll typically try to get to your on-prem infrastructure as well. Now, this type of adversary has also been exploring Gen AI and LLMs, but as a target, because as you know, most of these services that probably your organizations are using today are running on top of cloud services, right? So what would happen if an adversary is able to, to get inside your ChatGPT, your corporate ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot? What type of data would he be able to exfiltrate, for example? And this is, by the way, one of the top 10 vulnerabilities in OWASP. So when you go to OWASP and you see the top 10 LLM vulnerabilities, there's one which is model theft. And adversaries are also exploring that, okay? And, like I said before, Chinese adversaries have specialized also in this type of sector, so cloud intrusions, and we have seen also North Korean adversaries targeting the cloud control plane as well. Now, of course, there's a lot of initial access, adversaries using body credentials, but it's true that the vulnerability threat landscape, it's not improving, okay? And more than 50%, like I said in the beginning, has been related to initial access. So you take all the CVEs in 2024, more than 50% are related to initial access, okay? Now, adversaries, and again, for the same reason, because they know there's endpoint protection, are now targeting network devices. So those type of devices where traditional EDR or endpoint protection cannot be installed, okay? Yes, you might be able to be looking at the network traffic, but you cannot really see what's going on inside the device, okay? So adversaries, they are targeting those type of devices, and also they are targeting those because of the prevalence, because, you know, how many Fortinet firewalls are out there in the world, or Palo Alto firewalls, right? So they're going for the easy stuff. And something that it's really novel for last year is that they have been chaining exploits. So instead of just trying to write an exploit for a high CVSS score vulnerability, or, you know, a crazy supercritical vulnerability that maybe it's virtually unexploitable, they have been putting a lot of effort on, for example, low severity vulnerabilities. But when this type of vulnerability are chained, the adversary can get a high, high income when it comes to the output, because maybe it's low score, but the fact you're able to chain those, maybe you have a unique position or capability from the threat actor standpoint, okay? Now, they have been also doing their homework. They have pretty much gone back to school, like I like to say, because they are not just relying on what they can find. They are going to read blogs. They are attending conferences, like probably this one. Is one of you a threat actor? Raise your hand. No threat actor in the room? Good. And they are, leveraging this type of information. They are studying. They are getting better. And every time a research publishes a POC for a vulnerability, those guys are there. They are just understanding it, studying it, trying to replicate what they have seen in this type of research. So they have, they are doing their homework. They're working well, honestly. And because we have talked about cloud-conscious adversaries and vulnerability exploitation, we also wanted to introduce something new for this year's report, which is what we call the SaaS exploitation. Okay? And by SaaS, we mean applications or cloud-based service applications, such as Microsoft 365, Jira, Salesforce, GitHub, Bitbucket, you name it. Okay? There's hundreds of applications, SaaS applications out there. And the reason why they are targeting this is because, again, they are going for the easy stuff. So if they know you have endpoint protection, if you're somehow protecting your identity domain, if you are also protecting the cloud, then what's next, right? So they are looking for the easy way in, okay? And SaaS is one of those. If the adversary is able to get a valid SSO credential, then he might be able to move around your SaaS environment and even, go, again, downstream, maybe to the cloud infrastructure, to the cloud control plane. They are looking for documentation. Do you have, I don't know, Google Drive? Do you have online cloud-based storage? And what's there in your storage? Do you have network diagrams there? Do you have credentials there? And something, well, funny, not so funny, they are also looking for cyber insurance information and revenue information. Because, for example, e-crime actors, when they're going to ask for the ransom, they want to know that the ransom they're asking you is within your budget. So how crazy is that, right? I mean, these guys, they're on top of the game. So, this SaaS world, which is quite new, not so long ago, security teams didn't really have visibility over that. And we have seen that in our customers when we would ask them. It's like, oh, no, but Salesforce is owned by this business team. We don't have visibility over there. So, but when something happens, they'll call the security team. And one of the good news that I wanted to share with you today, in case you didn't know this, is that at CrowdStrike, we acquired Adaptive Shield. So it's now called Falcon Shield. And this is a platform that gives us that extra mile visibility. So we are now able to see how are the security controls configured in those apps, who has access, who hasn't, what's the data in those type of apps, and we're able to integrate that and correlate it with different type of events, okay? Now, before, wait, what's going on? Yeah, so before wrapping it up, I wanted to share with you some key takeaways, okay? Now, I hope that this first one is way too obvious, because that would mean you have been paying attention. But we have to say, you need to secure your identities. And I'm not just talking about PAM or MFA. You need to be able to know what's going on in your ADs. Even if it's on-prem, if it's on Entra, you need to be able to detect identity-based attacks. Is someone doing a Kerber roasting, a DC sync, a golden ticket? And you need to be able to prevent that with maybe, for example, conditional access policies, okay? Or adding friction to users, put them MFAs, something, okay? If you're not looking at identity-based threats, you are pretty much overlooking a huge entry point that adversaries are leveraging today. And we need to be able to defend the cloud as well. So as we have moved our infrastructure and our services to the cloud, we should be integrating the cloud security with the rest of the security operations within our organizations. Go get those cloud logs. We need to be able to detect and to monitor what's going on in that cloud infrastructure, okay? And this takes me to my next point, which is we need to eliminate this cross-domain visibility. And cross-domain, again, is something we introduced in last year's Global Threat Report. And it's the fact that adversaries, they are moving between different security domains. Okay? So not just moving laterally within a single domain, but moving across different domains. Endpoint, cloud, identity, SaaS applications. Okay? We need to be able to eliminate that the visibility gap. So for the fourth one is, and something that we at CrowdStrike think, we might want to change the way we approach patch management, because adversaries have changed the way they approach exploitation management. So they are not spending big efforts on, again, writing this crazy exploit for a high CVSS vulnerability. They're going for the easy things. I have 2 low score, 2, let's say, low vulnerabilities. What happens if I change those in a sequence or in an attack sequence, right? And they get really good output from there. And finally, something we always put a lot of emphasis is we need to understand who the adversary is, because that way we will know which are his motivations, how they're going to operate, and hopefully we will be able to address those security controls accordingly, okay? Now, in conclusion, today we have seen at least a general overview of how the 2024 threat landscape evolved, and hopefully some of the things that you should be keeping an eye on in 2025. I do hope it's been insightful, and then when you go back to your desks, maybe tomorrow, you're able to assess if you are equipped with the right tools, if you're well prepared to address these modern threats and these modern adversaries. Thank you.